worth it to kill an innocent child in cold blood? What about 500,000 children?
We have heard that 500,000 children have died. Is the price worth it?
We think the price is worth it.
How did this become normal enough to say out loud?
I think Islam hates us.
Sounds simple enough and compelling enough to cover up for our disastrous foreign policy. But what happens when you can no longer ignore the truth of it all?
I said the chickens came home to roost.
In 1963, Malcolm X was talking about how America's harmful foreign policies would eventually lead to domestic consequences. In 2007, on a presidential debate stage, Ron Paul called it blowback.
Yes, there was blowback.
The idea that when you drop bombs on people's homes, on their children, on their futures, eventually something comes back. And now, even Tucker Carlson.
I've been, an instrument of evil many times in my life, and I'm ashamed of it.
What a nation does abroad eventually shapes how it is perceived abroad. And then at some point, that perception becomes a raging fire.
Is this freedom? Is this democracy? This woman asked me. Is this what America has brought us?
Before you dismiss that idea, just sit with the question honestly. What if the story you've been told is incomplete? And maybe one that's felt a bit inaccessible? The reality is that most Americans have never and probably never will travel to a Muslim majority country. And here at home, behind barriers of suspicion, may have never even had a meaningful conversation with their Muslim neighbor, or made that simple trip to a local mosque to find out what it's really all about. When Americans actually go to the Muslim world, they find warmth and hospitality. And when Americans actually look into the authentic teachings of Islam, they find incredible peace. So why do so many Americans think Muslims just hate them? You weren't born suspicious. The global Islamophobia machine built that in you slowly and deliberately, news cycle by news cycle. They rely on your fear and you getting stuck in an algorithm that won't let you question what you really should actually be afraid of.
There's a tremendous hatred.
And every time so many Americans will ask, why do they hate us? The answer they're given, packaged and delivered by the most powerful media apparatus on the planet, is they hate you for your freedom.
They hate our freedoms.
We're meant to believe this all began with hatred of culture and your freedom of expression. Wouldn't that make places like New Zealand or Ireland more hateable? It doesn't make sense, which is why it has to be manufactured and packaged in a way that it would to you. In 2011, the Center for American Progress published a report. They traced $42.6 million from just 7 foundations, money funneled into one goal: make you afraid of your Muslim neighbor. Then Hollywood reinforced it. More than 300 movies, in one way or another, demean Arabs and Muslims. They're shown as buffoons, incompetent, violent fanatics over and over again until it forms a deliberate pattern in your head. During the 1980s and 1990s, nearly 30 films portrayed Palestinians in particular as irrational terrorists intent on harming Americans. The result was a cinematic narrative that framed all Muslims and entire people as a threat, rather than as human beings with complex lives and political realities. Then the media amplified it. Between 2006 and 2015, attacks by Muslims received 357% more media coverage than the exact same attack carried out by a non-Muslim. And while they stoked your fears and created the big bad Muslim boogeyman, the American war machine continued what it always does best: neocolonialism and destabilization. The US empire has over 750 military bases across 80 countries. It's armed and funded decades of proxy wars across the Middle East. Afghanistan. The US went in and spent 20 years spending $2.3 trillion, losing thousands of soldiers and killing hundreds of thousands of Afghan civilians, only to eventually leave the exact same government in power that was there when America first invaded. The average Afghan child today has never known a year without bombs overhead. Iraq. The US went in on a lie. The weapons of mass destruction that Colin Powell himself later called a blot on his record were never actually there. And America knew, but went anyway. And 1 million innocent civilians were killed, men, women, and children. The architects of those wars aren't in prison. They're on TV, giving TED Talks, getting book deals, and in redacted Epstein Island files. Then, of course, there's Gaza. When you watch a people starve, bomb, displaced to safe zones, only to be murdered in those very same safe zones, when you watch journalists be deliberately targeted with their press vests, aid workers be killed, hospitals be leveled to the ground, and your government fund every bomb of it while vetoing every ceasefire at the United Nations. How do you expect people to feel about our government? And just as many Americans started to wake up to the reality of that all, here comes Benjamin Netanyahu and the apartheid genocidal state of Israel to try to distract you again with the same old Islamophobia.
There is no question whatsoever that Saddam is seeking and is working towards the development of nuclear weapons.
By next spring, at most, by next summer,
Iran could produce a nuclear weapon. It could be a year, it could be within a few months.
But surely Netanyahu couldn't be that powerful. I mean, our government doesn't respond to him, right? Here we are again. The drumbeat is familiar. The talking points are ready. The threat is being assembled in real time through corrupt media run by the very apologists that made dirty war possible in the first place. And I want every American watching this to just pause and ask yourself, with everything you now know, who benefits? Who always benefits? While you're being told to look over there, over 750,000 Americans are homeless. This country has accumulated $38 trillion in national debt and climbing, while infrastructure crumbles away and families can't afford insulin, while a generation of young people have given up on ever owning a home. And where are the people responsible for those decisions? The Epstein files are right there, partially redacted, partially buried, but still there. A global network of elite power of people who run your institutions, who shape your foreign policy, who decide which wars get fought and which wars get funded. And the kind of depravity attached to those names would make your stomach turn. But we can't talk about that for too long, can we? Look over there. It's the Muslims again. The truth is, the Muslims you've been taught to fear are the people most likely to welcome you into their homes or serve you a hot meal before they've even learned your name. The religion you've been taught to suspect is the religion of a quarter of the world's population that has inspired its adherents to produce the world's first universities, its first hospitals, and so much more of what you benefit from today. The people you've been taught to see as a monolith are African, Arab, Asian, American, and European. 2 billion human beings who aren't as different as you think they are. And they don't hate you. They hate what's being done, but with your silence, with your tax dollars, with your government signature, to their children, their schools, their hospitals, their lives. And all along, you can't even afford to put your own children in school or take them to a hospital in the case of a medical emergency or invest in their future because of how invested our country is in destroying the past, present, and future of so much of the world, all driven by greed and malicious agendas. And if you still can't see it, try to feel it. I want you to stop for a moment and imagine a child born in a vibrant village in Pakistan, or in a thriving neighborhood in Baghdad, or in the crowded camps of Gaza where kids somehow always found a way to be happy, or on a serene farm outside of Tehran. This child wakes up in the morning, their mother makes them breakfast, they fight with their siblings over something silly, they have a favorite soccer player, they want to be a doctor someday or maybe an engineer, or maybe they just want to make their father proud. They go to school, even if in slums. They learn, they pray, they dream. And then one day, the sky falls. Literally. The sky opens up and something made in an American factory, sold to an American-backed government, falls on their home. And in the last seconds of that child's life, or if they somehow survive, even if without an eye, or a parent, or a limb, what do you think they hate? Your freedom? They don't even know what your political system is. They're 8 years old. What they know, what gets branded into the survivors, into their siblings, into their parents, is that something with an American flag on it ended everything they knew as life. If you stripped away everything the empire has fed you, the fear, the othering, the manufactured rage, you would come to the same conclusion that so many others have. You've been lied to. The Muslims don't hate you. They hate injustice.